Hello everyone, and welcome to our lecture on quantitative research methods in social sciences. My name is Dr. Haihu Guo, and a lecturer at the Department of Society and Health, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, Mahidol University. In today's section, we will explore three key quantitative research designs. We will also go over how to craft strong research titles, research questions, and hypotheses. These are essential building blocks for quantitative studies. Let's begin with an overview. In this session, we will first introduce the three main designs used in quantitative research. Survey research helps us describe trends or patterns within a population. Correlational research investigates relationships between variables. Experimental research goes one step further to test for causal effects. After that, we will continue to the practical aspects: how to create a good research title, how to write focused questions, and how to develop testable hypotheses. These steps will guide your study from start to finish. Before we delve into each design, it's important to see the landscape of quantitative approaches. Survey research focuses on describing patterns or trends. Correlation research investigates whether two or more variables are related, but it does not prove causality. Experimental research is the most rigorous. By manipulating variables, it allows us to test cause and effect relationships. These three designs differ in purpose, level of control, and the kinds of questions they can answer. Let's start with survey research. This method allows us to describe a population by collecting data from a sample. It uses structured tools like questionnaire or structured interviews. The goal is to generalize findings from the sample to the population. There are two types of survey research: cross-sectional, where data is collected at one point in time; the longitudinal, where data is gathered repeatedly over a longer period. This method is commonly used in health, education, and social sciences. Some key characteristics of survey research include the use of structured instruments, either paper-based or digital. Data is collected from a well-designed sample that reflects the larger population. Cross-sectional surveys are quick, while longitudinal surveys are used to study changes over time. Data can be collected online through in-person interviews, via telephone calls, or even by post. Analysis usually involves descriptive statistics and inferential statistics, depending on your research objectives. Now let's move to correlation research, which is also known as correlational design. This method explores whether a relationship exists between two or more variables. It does not involve manipulation. We simply observe and measure. For example, we might ask if stress levels are related to sleep duration. To quantify this relationship, we use statistical tools like Pearson's R. The strength and direction of the correlation can provide valuable insights for theory development or future experiments. Correlational research is powerful, but remember, it does not establish causality. It only identifies relationships. We use correlation coefficients to express the direction, positive or negative, and the strength of the relationship. This design works well with both cross-sectional and longitudinal data. Data may come from surveys, structured observations, or even from pre-existing datasets. It's frequently used in psychology, public health, and education research. Now we come to experimental research, which is a gold standard for testing causality. The design allows us to manipulate one variable, the independent variable, and observe the effect on another variable, the dependent variable. By controlling external variables, we can determine cause and effect relationships. For instance, we might test whether a new teaching method leads to higher student scores compared to the traditional method. The key features include manipulation of the independent variable, the use of both control and experimental groups, and random assignment. Randomization helps minimize selection bias and improve internal validity. Experiments can be done in controlled lab settings or in real-world field environment. Statistical tests like t-test or ANOVA are used to compare group differences. This method is especially useful when you need to make strong claims about causal relationships. This table helps summarize and compare the three main designs we have discussed. Survey research is often used for description. It tells us what is happening. Correlation research goes one step further by examining how variables move together. But it does not show cause and effect. Experimental research stands out because it manipulates variables and uses control to test causality. Understanding these differences is crucial for choosing the right design based on your own research goals. These are the essential steps for building a solid quantitative research project. It starts with identifying a clear problem and reviewing relevant studies. Defining the key variables helps in choosing the right design. Once the design is selected, you will need to draft your research questions or hypotheses. Then select an appropriate sample and move into data collection and analysis. This step-by-step approach ensures your research stays focused and methodologically sound. A well-designed research title gives your audience a clear sense of your study. In quantitative studies, titles should be short, ideally fewer than 12 words. Your title should reflect four things: the key subject or topic, the general approach or methodology, the participants involved, and the location or context of the research. A precise title not only communicates your intent, but also helps readers determine whether your work is relevant to them. In quantitative studies, it's especially important to include your primary variables. That means your independent variable, dependent variable, the study population, and the research set. Also, you can use signal words like predict, relationship, comparison, or related factors to indicate the nature of your research. This adds clarity and structure to your title. Now let's talk about research questions. In quantitative research, the questions help shape the focus and purpose of your study. A clear research question guides your methods, from the design to the tools you select, and the kind of data analysis you will use. The question must be specific enough to be testable and broad enough to offer meaningful results. There are three main categories. First, descriptive questions describe a variable or a set of characteristics. Second, relational or correlational questions examine how variables relate to each other. Third, comparative questions test for differences between groups or conditions. These question types match the three designs we covered earlier: survey, correlation, and experimental. Let's look at some examples. A descriptive question could be, what is the average stress level among students during exams? A relational question might be, is there a relationship between sleep duration and academic performance? A comparative question could be, do students who receive mindfulness training report lower anxiety compared to those who don't? Each example clearly fits one of the three research designs. Once your question is clear, the next step is to form a hypothesis. In quantitative research, a hypothesis is a testable prediction. We typically use two types: the null hypothesis, which predicts no effect or relationship; the alternative hypothesis, which predicts an effect. The alternative hypothesis can be either directional, stating which group will score higher, or non-directional, stating simply that a difference exists. The null hypothesis assumes that there is no difference or relationship between variables. For example, there is no significant difference in math scores between students taught by the new method and those taught by the traditional one. This forms the basis of most statistical testing. We attempt to reject the null and to support the alternative. A directional hypothesis is more specific. It not only predicts that a difference will occur, but also states the direction. For instance, Group A will score higher than Group B. This approach is used when existing theories or previous studies provide enough background to justify the prediction. A non-directional hypothesis is used when we believe there will be a difference, but we are not sure which direction it will take. For example, there is a difference between Group A and Group B. This type of hypothesis is more cautious and suitable when prior research is limited or inconclusive. These are some of the most common mistakes students make in quantitative research. Make sure your variables are clearly defined and measurable. Your research questions should match the design you have chosen. Do not mix them up. Be careful with your sampling process to avoid bias. Also, remember that just because two things are related does not mean one causes the other. Finally, choose your statistical test based on the type of data and your own research question. That wraps up our lecture for today. We have covered the main types of quantitative design: survey, correlation, and experiment. We also learned how to construct concise and informative research titles, how to write focused and measurable research questions, and how to form strong testable hypotheses. Thank you for joining this e-learning session. See you in the next section. Goodbye.